Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Burke County Board of Commissioners regular meeting for Tuesday, October the 16th, 2018. I will note that all of our commissioners are present tonight, along with our county manager, attorney, and our clerk. Welcome. I'll ask you at this time to please silence your mobile devices. If you have cell phones, tablets, other things that might make a noise during the meeting, please take a moment now to silence those so that our meeting will not be disturbed tonight. If you're making presentation tonight, I'll remind you to please come to the table and microphone in front of us, or to the podium and microphone there, and be sure to turn the microphone on so that everybody can hear you and know what you have to say. This time we're delighted tonight to have Pastor David Bridges from the First Apostolic Church to lead us in our invocation. Pastor Bridges, please come. Let's all stand together for our invocation.
Man, let's pray together. Lord Jesus, we thank you and praise you for this day that you've blessed us with today. Your word declares that you're the God who was, the God who is, and the God who is to come. Therefore, tonight, God, we give you praise for everything that you've done in each and every life that has led us to this point. We praise you for this day that you've blessed us with, this present time that we have. God, we pray that the decisions that are made, the board that is meeting tonight, God, that it would impact our community, our city, and our county in a tremendous way. Therefore, Lord, that our future will be blessed, our children will be blessed, our grandchildren will be blessed. We pray that stemming from this meeting, God, that your blessing, your anointing, and your presence would go with each and every person in this house. We ask it in the only name given among men whereby we must be saved. In the name of Jesus Christ we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Again, thank you for being here. Please remain standing for our pledge. Our pledge tonight will be led by the Burke County 4-H group under the leadership of Nikki Carpenter. So you guys come on up front and we'll follow your leadership in our Pledge of Allegiance.
Stand, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now, if you guys will remain right there just a second, we're going to come forward. Oh, I beg your pardon.
I pledge my head to clearer thinking, my heart to greater loyalty, my hands to larger service, and my health to better living, for my club, my community, my country, and my world.
All right, thank you. Now, stand right there just a second. This brings us to item number 4 on our agenda tonight, approval of agenda. And gentlemen, you should have also received, in addition to minutes in your package earlier, you should have received the September 18th meeting minutes sent via email a couple days ago. So I would entertain a motion also to include those minutes for approval. And there was one noted correction, and Madam Clerk has made that correction, Commissioner Taylor, I believe at your request. And you have that in front of you also. So with that, gentlemen, I would entertain a motion to approve those minutes for agenda, including those minutes for September the 18th.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Wayne. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That's all of us. Thank you. Now we'll come to the approval of those minutes. This will be the approval of minutes for August 21st, 2018, Board of Commissioners regular meeting. September the 4th, 2018, Board of Commissioners pre-agenda meeting. September 18th, 2018, Board of Commissioners regular meeting. I would entertain a motion at this time.
You want all three at once, Mr.
Yes.
Chairman? I so move.
Thank you, Maynard. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That's all of us, Madam Clerk. All right, this brings us to presentations tonight. We have a presentation from our sheriff. This is a special recognition, and congratulations, Sheriff. I'll let you go from there.
Thank you so much. In the humility of the detention officer that we're here to honor, he's so humble that he really don't want to be here in the public spotlight. So I'm going to read some information about how this North Carolina Detention Officer of the Year come to be from Burke County. The award recognizes a detention officer who's made outstanding contributions to his or her sheriff's office. The award is intended to recognize a detention officer who has demonstrated initiative and imagination in the performance of his or her duties, are just part of the reasons that they give out this award. But I wanted to share with you a few of the accomplishments that we submitted for him in recognition of this award that he ended up getting. He holds 85 certificates for continuing education of law enforcement training. Corporal William Allen Kincaid has great knowledge of all the paperwork that comes from the different courts. His knowledge has resulted in court documents being corrected, leading to inmates' time in custody being shortened. He developed an inmate location log early in his career that is still being used today to track inmates, and that's been since 2002. He has trained many new officers who have gone on to become road deputies and bailiffs in the courthouse. Anytime an additional task is asked of him, he accepts the challenge without any hesitation. At the time we lost a sergeant to an automobile accident, Corporal Kincaid stepped up and helped with the responsibilities of that sergeant's duties. The Burke County Jail has been called the cleanest and best maintained small jail in North Carolina by the North Carolina Standards Division. The jail recently passed its 9th jail inspection with no discrepancies. This accomplishment is in no small feat due to the dedication and personal pride of the corporals and detention officers. Corporal Kincaid was instrumental in this accomplishment due to his leadership and his professionalism. Hardworking, dedicated, knowledgeable, trustworthy, organized, punctual, precise are just a few of the adjectives that describe Corporal William Allen Kincaid. We thank you for the opportunity for me coming to be able to honor and recognize this North Carolina Detention Officer of the Year. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Sheriff. And I take it the corporal's not present.
No, he's not in this one. He's humble. He does not like the spotlight. I'd love to have him here to show him off, but he said he'd rather just me read this.
All right. Well, please extend our appreciation for his excellence. Thank you, Sheriff. All right. This brings us to item 7, scheduled public hearings. We have several public hearings tonight. The first one will come from our county manager. This is a development incentive grant and public hearing. Manager Steen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicants, if you want to come up and discuss your project, gentlemen, we had them back during pre-agenda where you were able to ask them some questions. I don't know if there was any additional questions you'd like to ask. They followed the procedure that's established for the DIG grant and have met with the city, and I believe the city has already taken formal board action, and now it comes over to the county commissioners for their review and consideration. So, gentlemen, if y'all have a short summary you'd like to share for the commissioners and our audience, you're welcome to.
We do. Thank you. And thank you for taking time to review the Development Incentive Grant application and your time here tonight. We'll recap some of what we discussed in our last meeting, but This has been a long process from the development, from the start to the finish line here, or to where we're getting towards construction, the construction phase. A lot of moving pieces. We had to basically take a market, which is where we are, that currently does not have this level of product in this market, and then create a pro forma or create a business plan as to why we can sustain that. And in order for this to be successful, we had to first engage with our development partners, then with Marriott, then with Live Oak Bank. And along the process, all of these individuals had no frame of reference as far as Burke County, as far as business in this area. And so our process was getting all of them on board, which has happened before we came here this evening, obviously. Our market here is changing, as I'm sure everyone knows. There's a lot of things that are going in a positive manner between the School of Science and Math, between the reemergence of the manufacturing sector. All these things are wonderful and are going to impact us greatly in the future. And so that's where our product, which is a downtown hotel, comes into play. There's been a tremendous amount of work done to really verify the efficacy of this project in this marketplace, independent studies and the sort, all of which indicate that this is a prime market in need of a hotel. As I mentioned before, nothing like this has been done before as far as a downtown location like this, and so it's required a lot from both the investment side as well as the development side to make that make sense to all of the outside stakeholders. And so part of that is obviously things such as this nature, and we feel that when we were first presented with the development incentive grant, that what the DIG is trying to accomplish is tailor-made for this sort of project, as far as incentivizing economic growth, bringing new amenities to the marketplace, revitalizing certain properties or areas that were in need of a lift. And so in that sense, as we went through every single bullet point there, we felt that it was dead in line with what we were looking to accomplish. One aspect of the DIG is the but-for test. In order for, right now, as I'm sure you can imagine, construction costs, and I'm sure you've seen it with other projects, construction costs have been on the rise for the past 18 months dramatically. Recent hurricanes obviously never helped the construction prices either. And so for this project to make sense, certain things were necessary as far as making the pro forma work. One aspect of that pro forma is how it relates to the bank financing of the project, the construction financing, which is the debt service coverage ratio. For that to make sense, the total pro forma had to make sense from an economic point of view. And so that's where the implementation of the DIG is part of that, as part of the downstream tax effects, definitely made this project work. It's critical to the project, and without it, actually, it negatively affects the pro forma. I'm going to let my development partner here, Mike Kren, speak a little more to the finances.
Yeah, I think I'd just like to focus on making sure that everybody understands that this is very much an investment for the county. It's not. I want to present it as that. I don't want to present it as an expense. We've tried to gear the presentation that we made. We probably put enough data and financial information in there to bore you to death. That wasn't the intent, but it was to sort of allow you, the flexibility to look as deeply into the numbers as you want, but just to understand that the cost to the county is nil, and the benefits of the county are substantial. So we tried to put that into a return on investment format, and just to understand, I think in a broad sense, specific to travel tourism, the statistics show that if somebody comes in and spends $100 on a hotel room, that's not the impact of their stay. In fact, they spend about another 2.5 times that on other things, whether it's food, lodging, gas, grocery store, entertainment, that also get spent in the county. So there's a multiplier effect that's very substantial, and it continues to trickle downstream from there. The money that's being brought in by nature of tourism, and I'm sure you hear this on a regular basis from Ed Phillips as well, but it's all new money. It's all from outside the county, or the vast majority of it is going to be people coming from other places, spending their money in Burke County, and it's our intention for that money to stay in Burke County the way we structured the ownership of the hotel. So we feel that from an investment standpoint, I think it's one of the best things that you guys hopefully will see this year or in the coming years, and I hope you work with us on it, and we're really looking forward to bringing this to fruition here.
And just to touch on that, beyond the tourism aspect, there's also the impact to the manufacturing sector here in Burke County. In your packet of information, there are letters of recommendation from across category, from the hospital, from different manufacturers, et cetera. I myself am also in the high-end furniture manufacturing business here in Burke County. Actually just drove back right now from a furniture market, which is going on right now. It's very anecdotal, but there's a lot of people just in my industry alone who are not from this area or even this state, but they're in this area quite frequently for work and for business. They're currently not staying here. We had the same conversation 5 and 6 times over the last 3 days, where people, they may be staying in Hickory, and a lot of it, what's happened is they fly into Charlotte, do their Western North Carolina business, and then drive to Greensboro or High Point and stay there for the remainder of their furniture business. Again, anecdotal just to the furniture industry, but that's happening quite a lot. So there was a lot of excitement as far as when I mentioned this to people, because they do love this area, and when they're visiting and traveling for work, they're excited to spend more time here.
Yeah, it'll allow us to optimize economics that already exist here, and we're just not capturing them, as well as sort of create opportunities for growth in what I believe is currently a bottleneck, which is the ability for companies who are already here to bring folks in, whether it's new employment or customers, et cetera. So we're very positive on the impact beyond just the direct impact of the hotel economics itself.
Are there any questions?
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for that information. Before I open the public hearing, any questions from the commissioners to these gentlemen?
Well, first thing, I'm not against the project, but I am against the $178,000, which I don't think the gentleman mentioned. That's going to come out of taxpayer money over the next 5 years from Burke County taxpayers, and that I do have problems with. The hotel project is a wonderful project, and it's going to happen whether we throw in $178,000 or not. And they can talk about, well, occupancy tax and sales tax. Well, that's all going to happen anyways, and that happens with our existing properties already. So I don't see where that's the big driver, but I really have a problem with the $178,000 of our taxpayers' money over 5 years. And I just think the dig thing, I think we did the one project there at the bypass, and that sort of has taken forever. But my feeling is that, from speaking to some of our other commissioners and that we probably, this might be the last dig project that we do possibly or whatever. But I just don't think the taxpayers of Burke County are going to really benefit from this when the $178,000 over the 5-year period. That's a lot of money, and that's you know, like I say, I'm not against the project, but I'd like to see them do it without the dig.
We'd be happy to respond to some of those concerns. The first one, I think I'd like to clarify that the $178,000 of investment by the county is a function of the tax benefit that the hotel would initially have. So it's actually not a cost to the county, it's just less of a revenue up front. So rather than receiving maybe $300,000 in tax revenue, you'd receive that amount less $178,000. As far as the project being able to move forward without the dig, I don't think that is necessarily the case. We have not closed our primary financing yet. We're scheduled to close that on the 24th of this month, pending the outcome of today and the dig grant. Those finances are required to make the pro forma work for the bank, what they consider to be their 1.25 debt service coverage ratio in the first 3 years of the project. So it very much is a vital part to make sure that financing is closed and that we are able to continue with the construction of the hotel.
I don't think you'd be looking at this project if you didn't think you could raise the $13 million, what you're talking about. And it's still, no matter how you say this, it's still going to cost Burke County taxpayers $178,000, which you all failed to mention in your beginning presentation. I think the project is a go anyways, but I don't think you need $178,000 of Burke County taxpayers' money. I think it's a poor thing for our Burke County taxpayers.
Other questions for these guys?
Mr. Chairman, just a couple of quick questions. You mentioned a formula that the county would realize 2.5 times what the room rate would be. And is that a national average, or is that a Carolina average, or?
That is a national statistic, correct?
So if your rooms are $100, somebody's going to spend $250 more elsewhere. Is that the theory?
That is the theory, yeah. There could be certainly variance around that number, but it's just an illustration of the concept that when people come into the area, they're spending more than just their hotel room.
The other thing is not so much a question, it's just that I want you to make sure that you succeed. And the reason I say that is that if you follow the paper and the news, I know that you are aware that there's as many as 3 or 4 maybe other hotels in the works or in the planning stages. Now, I don't know how many of those will eventually be built, but how does that make your picture look? Are you confident that you can make it with other competition coming in?
Yeah. We do, and the reason why you're seeing this growth is the growth in the area. It's not a zero-sum game. We feel that there is room for different properties with different price points and offering different amenities for customers. Our hope is that continues to grow. There's an old philosophy, first day of business school they go over, where you have a gas station on one corner, it does X amount of business, and you add another gas station on the other corner. They don't share the same business, they actually both grow. And so the theory for hotels is very similar. What you'll often see is actually areas where they go together. And it's almost, they build what they call critical mass, which basically means that you're allowing for more things to happen in that area. With that growth also, right now, I know that Ed Phillips is working on potentially starting some, what do they call it, like expo business and
Yeah, the conventions and
convention business in the area, and bring more groups to the area. Even with just one hotel, you're talking about 85 rooms. That's not enough if you're getting a 200 and 300 person group together at one place. So the ideal is that the rising tides lifts all ships, and that will help us all actually grow in the area.
Again, I think if you would ask 100 of our citizens, and if this was a good deal for Burke County and our citizens, I think 95 of them would probably say no. But again, thinking of the taxpayers, I just think this is such a bad deal for us.
Other questions?
Mr. Chairman, just a couple of comments. The information that you provided was great. Nobody can argue your due diligence. The presentation, as I told you in the pre-agenda meeting, I was impressed with the numbers. As I also mentioned in the pre-agenda meeting, we're talking about numbers. Y'all went very conservative on your numbers, actually, when you look at this. And so I do disagree with some of our other commissioners that, when we look at downstream revenues, as you mentioned, our overall return on investment over the next 5, especially the next 10 years, running those numbers, it's an economic boom for Morganton and Burke County. And as far as the availability of a dig, regardless of what we do in the future, we do offer it now. And in this circumstance, if we have that available, to me, this is the perfect circumstance to use it. That's just my opinion.
Mr. Chairman, again, in the Scott's comment, it's all pie in the sky at this time, what the numbers will be or whatever. I mean, everything we're looking at right now is just potential numbers. So I don't think you can really hold those numbers to be true at this time.
Other comments?
Mr. Chairman, if I may do one more scenario, I'm trying to look at, Wayne brings up an important point, and one of the things that I didn't want to do is go to that 85%, but I understand it's not us, that's a state law above us. But you're saying the first 5 years, you anticipate $43 million in revenue from the operation of your motel?
No,
That's seven,
that's not accurate.
okay.
The revenue on the hotel over the first 5 years, I don't have it in front of me, but I'm gonna, from memory, say it's around 12 to 13 million dollars.
Okay,
Ramps up to levels off, at year 3. We're projecting it to level off just over $3 million, with the first year being in the $2 million range.
Yep.
Let's see which page that's
well,
on.
your
We might have
5 year
discussed.
total tax revenue for Burke County General Fund, but that's a different thing than sales. I was trying to get the figure of how much sales tax at 7%, and I know hotel occupancy is a little higher than 7, and looking about what that would bring in.
Yeah, it is in there in the presentation. Let me just find the right page here. So you go to the total tax revenues detail page. It's page 4 of the presentation.
Page 4.
Yes, sir. This breaks out actual just tax revenues. The next page that you were looking at with the 43 million is total economic impact, which is a sort of inflated number. This page will show you the direct tax revenue as a function of the hotel, both sales tax and occupancy tax after that, as well as the ad valorem taxes above that. So it breaks it out all three, and then it combines it at the bottom, showing a total of about 2.3 million in tax revenues to the Burke County General Fund over the first 5 years of the hotel operations.
2 million.
2.3 million, that's correct.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Other questions? All right, hearing none at this time, I'll open the public hearing. Do we have anyone here tonight to speak to this matter? All right, seeing and hearing none, Madam Clerk, I'll close the public hearing and I'll entertain a motion on this item.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve a development incentive grant for Morgan and Lodging Associates LP, subject to the annual verification of Morganton's grant payments, property tax, and MSD tax to Morgan and Lodging Associates LP, and there shall be no reversion of dig payments to the city of Morgan by the developer, Morgan and Lodging Associates LP.
All right, thank you, Scott. Gentlemen, you've heard the motion. All those in favor, please signify by the uplifted hand. Those opposed? Madam Clerk, that's 4-1. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate you being here tonight. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Brings us to item 2 on our scheduled public hearings. This item comes from Community Development Zoning Map Amendment ZTA 2018-02 and public hearing. This will be presented by Scott Carpenter, our Deputy County Manager and Planning Director. Good evening, Scott.
Good evening, gentlemen. How are you all this fine evening?
Very good, thank you.
Good. It's nice to see you. Well, this is the zoning and map amendment that keeps on coming back. We actually started this amendment 5 months ago is how long this has been going. So this is zoning map amendment 2018-02. Staff originally received a rezoning application from Todd Bennick and Carissa Parker to rezone 8 parcels of land totaling 21.07 acres from its current zoning of R1 residential to residential 3 zoning district. The Planning Board met to hear this request on May 24th, 2018, and at that meeting, the Planning Board voted 2-2 to approve the rezoning request. Because the request did not garner the majority vote required for approval, the motion failed to be approved by the Planning Board. The vote without a recommendation was forwarded to the Board of Commissioners. So you all heard this on July 17th, 2018. And you all made a decision at that meeting to send the rezoning request back to the planning board for review and reconsideration to R2 zoning district. So the applicants have decided to amend their original rezoning request and request the same 8 parcels be rezoned to R2 residential district instead of R3 like was the original request. The parcels are accessed by Roy McGalliard Avenue, which is State Road 1279. 1279 is classified as a local road. The parcels are served by private wells and private septic systems. The property is not located within a water supply watershed. 2 of the parcels within the rezoning application have structures on them. The Carissa Parker parcel, which is pin number 175277, 3820 has a modular home on it, and the other parcel, identified by PIN number 175-288-0291, has a non-conforming Class A manufactured home on it. The remaining parcels are vacant and wooded. The surrounding area is very rural, and the majority of the land is undeveloped. The land on Roy McGalliard Avenue is also mostly undeveloped, with the exception of 2 single-family homes, 1 modular home, and 3 manufactured homes. To the north of the subject parcels are several large tracts being used as a plant and a nursery. I'll be brief on this since you all are aware of the area and what has taken place. As far as conformity with the comprehensive plan, the 2016-2030 Blueprint Burke Strategic Land Use Plan is the most recent land use plan to help guide county decision making. The plan classifies the area surrounding the subject parcels as the Lake James Special Planning Area. This area includes the Lake James and parts of the surrounding lake overlay and scenic overlay zoning districts. The natural and environmental resources in the area still make it a center for multiple outdoor recreation uses as well as residential subdivisions. As far as conformity with the Burke County zoning ordinance go, the current R1 zoning district is the most restrictive zoning district in the county. Essentially, it just allows for single-family residential home structures. The R1 zoning would not permit any type of manufactured housing, and this again is why the rezoning was originally initiated some months back. The proposed zoning district, R2, is very similar to the R1 district. There are only 5 different land uses between the R1 and R2 district. The R2 district would allow limited expansion for both residential and recreation use. If the rezoning is approved, the manufactured home on parcel PIN number 175-288-0291 would be brought into compliance with the zoning ordinance. The planning board met on August 23rd, 2018 to rehear the rezoning request, and after a time of deliberation, a motion was made to approve the rezoning request, and the board voted 5-1 to approve the rezoning request and to make that recommendation to you fine gentlemen tonight. Staff had also recommended approval of this as well, and if you so choose to do so, a statement of zoning consistency is required.
All right, thank you, Scott. Gentlemen, before I open the public hearing, are there any questions to Scott, or I believe the applicant is represented tonight?
The applicant is represented by his wife tonight. He is out of town.
Any questions for Scott?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, please. Scott, I have asked a lot of questions, but there's one sentence in your presentation that's just kind of haunting me. It's on page 176, first paragraph, the last sentence. And that sentence says, if the rezoning is approved, the manufactured house on parcel PIN number 175-288-0291 would be brought into compliance with the zoning ordinance.
Yes, sir.
Okay. The problem with that statement, says to me that, and if I'm out of the ballpark, just say, Maynard, you're out of the ballpark. But what it says is we have somebody out of compliance, and the way we're going to fix it is rezone his property. And I keep getting calls and I keep getting emails that this is a special favor. I don't want to say that, but I can't come up with anything else right now that fits. And you want to explain that a little bit? Has he been given a citation for that parcel?
He was, yes, sir. And so it was identified as being non-compliant with the zoning. And so whenever somebody's non-compliant with the zoning, we have several options that we can go through. We can ask for them to remove it, or we can also ask that they ask to rezone the property to a category that allows that use. And so that's what Mr. Binnick decided to do, was to come and ask that that be rezoned to it was R3 that he asked for originally, and then we felt that that might be a big change, and so it was changed to R2, which was not so much. But it's not a special favor. Anybody who has a zoning violation would be offered the same thing, and they could come and ask for the opportunity to rezone their property.
Your sentence before that, or a couple sentences, says there's only 5 land uses difference on that. You want to point those out to us, if you will, please? What can he do at R2 that he cannot do?
So you can do a single family residential. You can do a Class A manufactured home, which is double wide with shingles and vinyl siding. You can do a duplex, or you can do a multi-family type of project, which is highly unlikely in this case. And I forget what the other one is, but
there's an E in that format, in that table, but it doesn't say what E means in the ledger. What does E mean on that?
Where is it? Oh, Conservation District Estate, at CDE, or where are you at, sir?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't bring my notes. I don't know exactly what page that's on, but anyhow, it's in the ledger showing the difference between R1 and R2, our business, et cetera, et cetera.
And really, down in an area like that, the only thing that's likely to happen is single family, double wide manufactured, and duplexes. You don't have any water or sewer or anything that would handle any high density type of stuff. And we don't really have any high density in the county outside the cities.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions of Scott? Scott, just remind me, if my memory is correct, this was not a home that somebody was already living in. This was a new request. Is that correct?
This was, you're talking about the manufactured home?
The one that's in non-compliance, or that we found in non-compliance?
Right. Nobody had moved into it. It hadn't been completed with the setup.
It was determined after it was already set up that it was not the proper.
Right. It was going through county inspections. So they were checking the hookups for water and the septic system and those types of things, tie downs.
Okay. Anything else for Scott? All right, hearing none, at this time I'll open the public hearing for this matter. Do we have anyone to speak on this matter? Madam Clerk.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I have several folks signed up to speak. Carl Beck.
Good evening.
Evening.
Hi, I'm Carl Beck. I'm with Clayton Homes, and I was asked to speak on behalf of Mr. Binnick. We don't have any interest in this project as far as us dealing with the Binnicks on this, but we do have an interest in being fair about what we see. And Burke County's been fantastic. I've been here, we've been open since 1999. and being fair with zoning for manufactured housing. And our citizens have chosen that product many, many times. But the part I'd like to speak about is depreciation. I think people get caught up in that. When I say depreciation, they're thinking their property values are going to go down because of manufactured housing, houses set up close by. Don't have a study in front of me. I got a more recent one, but there was a study done by East Carolina University some years ago, and it debunked that in our state and other states throughout the Southeast. And I could point out, as many of you know, there's some super fine homes, site-built homes that are sitting real near manufactured homes, and their tax values haven't gone down because of that. But the most recent one just came out recently, and it was is in Urban Insights, or Urban Institution, which writes information, a magazine, a publication for municipalities and county governments and state governments. But I'll pass it out to you. But really get to the bottom line of it. It shows that we're not only seeing appreciation in manufactured housing now. I mean, it is just happening. But the data is showing that they're going up in value at the rates that are competent, you know, with site-built housing, that it's actually a good investment. And you can say we follow the money. Well, our lenders locally, SECU is one of the biggest lenders of manufactured housing in our state, and offer financing that's competitive with, you know, with a site built. Wells Fargo, Bank of America, I can go on, but they all offer 30-year terms that are the same as what a site-built house would be. So their data shows that that investment's good, because otherwise they wouldn't do it. And their FHA Title II loans, USDA loans, VA loans, that would be very consistent throughout our state, and of course here in our county, people choosing to do those. So I have some handouts. You're welcome to take a look at them. I'll pass them around. But that was the thing that I think I could bring tonight, was just that it is a myth that the values of manufactured housing goes down, you know, if it's kept up, just like it would be with site built. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Beck. Madam Clerk?
Jeremy Parker.
Mr. Parker, please state your name and address, please.
Excuse me? I didn't know. Are we good to go? Okay. Yeah, I didn't hear whoever
State your name and address, please, if you would.
My name's Jeremy Parker. I live on 5360 Roy McGaggard Avenue. Honestly, I don't see why, you know, it's going to affect anything. If anything, it's going to help, because, I mean, you could possibly put, well, a family member that don't have a home, so they lost it in a storm or anything, they're going to have a home, or just help somebody out in general. I don't really know what to say. Besides, I don't see a problem with putting a mobile home, because I've lived beside a trailer park, and I've never seen the property depreciate. My first home, I should say, and I've never seen the property depreciate. Matter of fact, property is constantly going this way. So I don't see a problem with putting a double wide, because on Roy McGaggard Avenue, there's literally, I'm the one that lives in the modular on Roy McGaggard Avenue, and if I wouldn't have known, I actually did not know that you couldn't put a double wide on the property, and I was gifted the property. So I would have been up the creek if I'd have bought a double wide. So luckily, I got talked into a modular, but I don't see what it's hurting having a double wide there, because Todd goes above and beyond to make something look good. Whenever he does it right. And that's all I have to say.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Parker. Madam Clerk?
Carrie Bennick.
Ms. Bennett, please state your name and address for the clerk, please.
My name is Carrie Bennick, and I live at 1769 Waterford Way in Morganton. I'm here to speak on Todd's behalf. He's not here tonight. He had to be out of town, scheduled before this, so that's the reason I'm here. I'm not much of a public speaker and get very nervous, so just bear with me. All I want to say here today is the reason for the rezoning on Roy McGalliard is to put an employee of ours on the property to help with the maintenance, the overseeing, the just caretaking. We have a lot of property down there, and there's constantly, you know, mowing to be done and just a lot of maintenance going on. So that's the main reason we want to do that. It's our personal property. We don't have any intentions whatsoever of ever selling it or rezoning it or, subdividing or anything like that. It's nothing to do with that. Actually, you heard my sister's property joins that property. We eventually would like to build our own house there, too. We would like to have possibly our kids one day. I mean, we have a lot of land there, so that's the main thing. That's what we'd like to do. We use the property just for family gatherings a lot. We have a lot of things going on down there, but we would just like to have it rezoned so we can put an employee down there. Basically, is the thing we'd like to do. So we're asking for that because we believe it better fits the needs. That type of rezoning would better fit the needs for that land, and the rest of the road. There are several other single wides, double wides on the road, so we think it fits in that area. So thank you for your consideration and your time on this.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett.
Mr. Paul Wardzinski.
Good evening. My name is Paul Wardzinski, and my family lives on Snow Hill Church Road near Roy McGalliard Avenue. And I respectfully ask the Burke County Board of Commissioners to deny Mr. Bennick's request to rezone 8 parcels totaling 21 acres on Roy McGalliard Avenue to R2 status in spite of the Planning Board's recommendation to do so. I have 3 reasons for this request. To begin, the first time that we addressed the Planning Board regarding Mr. Bennick's request to rezone to R3, so apparently he could place several types of manufactured homes regardless of condition on a road specifically zoned R1, single-family dwelling exclusive of manufactured homes. This request, and I can maybe help clarify what Mr. Carpenter was saying, this request was made after he had already illegally and apparently knowingly installed a dilapidated trailer on one of the R1 zone parcels in our neighborhood. The current R1 status has existed for decades to avoid land value depreciation, to stop businesses from operating on the road, and to protect and enhance quality of life for the residents. Now Mr. Bennick has changed his request to rezone R1 land to R2. However, despite the Planning Board's view that this is somehow a compromise where everyone gets what they want, Mr. Bennick's new request for R2 status changes none of the previous arguments against rezoning, and no one has yet addressed Mr. Bennick's flagrant disregard of zoning regulations. The compromise should be that Mr. Bennick be told to remove the illegal trailer immediately, and as a result, maybe he won't be fined. After all, are zoning regulations enforceable or not? Secondly, I would like the commissioners to be aware that every immediate neighbor in the vicinity, maybe not this evening, however, at the last board meeting, spoke against the R2 zoning request. The Planning Board recommended in favor of one individual who does not reside in the McGalliard Road area against a multitude of Burke County citizens, taxpayers, and longtime residences who will be most directly affected by this rezoning to R2 and the influx of the trailers that Mr. Bennick apparently will be allowed to bring. As has been pointed out, Roy McGalliard Avenue is not in any way designed for heavy traffic, nor does the area have the infrastructure, water, sewage, and so forth, to support 21 acres of trailers. Further, the request goes against the county's own existing land management or recreational land management plans for the Lake James area. Finally, our family's home is the last house on the Snow Hill Church Road before the intersection of Roy McGalliard Avenue. In other words, I live very closely. The request to rezone these Bennick parcels to R3 or R2 for mobile homes, whether sold or rented, will do nothing but lower property values of all landowners, citizens, and taxpayers in the vicinity, in spite of irresponsible assurances that it would not affect our property value by the planning board at the August meeting. And I do disagree with Mr. Beck's assessment, and I would very simply ask you, are there trailers on golf courses in the county, and would you like a trailer park next to your house? At any rate, for many of us, our homes are our most important investment, and I would like the Board of Commissioners to consider our losses, not just Mr. Bennick's inconvenience or his profit. Additionally, this rezoning will directly impact the quality of our lives by increasing the volume of traffic and noise, an issue that Mr. Bennick has already proven himself to be oblivious to regarding his neighbors. This is the fourth time my family and I have committed hours of our time to address the Planning Board and now the Board of Commissioners regarding Mr. Bennick's zoning request for his gain at the expense of his neighbors. In summary, I again want the Board of Commissioners to be aware that this is not what the residents and citizens of this area want, and respectfully ask you that you deny the zoning request.
Thank you, Mr. Wodinski. Madam Clerk.
Melanie Honeycutt. Good evening, board members, county manager, county attorney. My name is Melanie Honeycutt, and I'm a landowner on Snow Hill Church Road. We own a large parcel of land, my husband and I, which we plan to eventually build on in the future. So I wanted to address a couple of things. The community is important to me. I'm born, raised here in Burke County, and educated here. I think it's important to see our community grow and develop. I'm excited about seeing the School of Science and Math and the other issues, but we can't let it grow at the expense of our taxpayers. The Community Development Department is supposed to service us all. We're not asking for special treatment as property owners or homeowners in that area. We're asking for equal consideration, not just from you guys, but from the community development group as well, and equal time with that part. You are here to assist us with questions as well, and assist us with questions in the landowners. We do have 2 parcels of property. They've been in discussion out of the 8 that have a modular home and a mobile home on them. Let's just look. 0.8 acres has the mobile home on it. Why can't we spot zone that and make it compliant? Why do the other 21 acres have to be R2 instead of R1? That's never really been answered. I don't want to speculate as a person, but I would say that why would we have to do that? And I think that's a question that commissioners should ask. Why would we need to make that? If the plan is to build family homes on the 21 acres, they're going to be compliant with R1, correct? So why would we have to rezone it to R2? So I would like to suggest, as a compromise, that we do take care of that family member and that employee that they want to help that is homeless at this particular time by looking and rezoning just that one parcel of land. It is easily identifiable, and it has a PIN number, and it's only 0.8 acres. And it's the only one out of compliance. So I think that when you look at your own packet and your pieces that you have on page 109 and page 114 that talk about all these particular pieces, then I think you would see that this is a logical and a good compromise for all parties involved. I do want to mention too that it was also stated in the pre-agenda that there's always been some different types of property down through there. There's not. So really the best way to consider and for us to be able to have a good compromise and be good neighbors in all aspects is to consider just rezoning the one piece of property that's out of compliance and leave the rest the way it is. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Honeycutt.
Miss Susan Andrea.
Well, as you can tell, I'm George, I'm not Susan. We were late getting here. First of all, just a touch of history. We brought our issues to this board in 2013 and never got any response or support with regards to noise in our neighborhood. We left that neighborhood. In probably in 2015, my wife and I spoke with Commissioners Carroll and Abley, and we were told that, yes, we'll get somebody on it. Scott Carpenter, he never called me. I had to call him. And in the brief conversation that we had, he said, of course it's he said, I said, but he said, well, the commissioners don't want to deal with these noise issues. At that time, I realized that we needed to move because we were not going to get any help. So we did move. We left in 2016 and have since sold 10 acres of our property. We own 2 parcels of land on each side of Roy McGalliard going in. One is 1 acre, one is 37. We had to take 10 acres in our house to split it out so that we could sell it. No one wanted to buy our home because of the noise. So you didn't create the noise, but you've enabled it to continue. And in that case, we did lose money on our house. In spite of all the statistics that you hear, we lost money. Go to the tax records and you'll see. So it's something that you've enabled and we've suffered from it, and we don't want the rest of the folks there who are R1 and have property to see their value of their property depreciate. So you should deny this application. And lastly, I think Scott Carpenter needs to address Laura Brown's questions. She sent some very good questions around this strategic plan, which was quickly covered over in the planning board because we weren't allowed to speak after the public comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Andrew. Madam Clerk.
Tony Branch.
Howdy, I'm Tony Branch, 2020 US 70 West. I've been in the mobile home business for around 40 years. And for the life of me, I can't understand. We're not wanting to put a mobile home in Rodeo Drive. We're wanting to put one on Roy McGalliard Road in a mobile home community. I mean, there are more mobile homes on Roy McGalliard Road than there are site-built houses. And to answer Mr. Rosinski, if you need to ride out Silver Creek, because within 100 feet of their entrance is a mobile home park at Silver Creek. And if you've ever went out Hopewell Road at Mimosa Hills Golf Course, their mobile homes, Carl just put several mobile homes out on Hopewell Road right next to the golf course, Mimosa Golf Course. And so if you know Todd Biddies, he's going to improve the mobile home. They talk about how bad it is, but if you everything that man owns, he goes above and beyond to fix it up, you know, to make it comply with. I think it'll look as good as any. And, you know, I'm sure everybody would like to live in $300,000 houses. But, you know, they can't. They live in mobile. I started out in a mobile home, and I'm sure some of y'all did. And, you know, so, and the reason that the county, we had to, they zoned it the whole time, the county recommended that instead of spot zoning. They said that that's not good. That's the reason it was, the whole parcel was, you know, R1. But all we're asking is just one mobile home. We're in a mobile home community. I mean, it's not like it's on Riverside Drive up here, you know. And that's all we're asking for. And that's all I've got to say.
Thank you, Mr. Branch.
Those are all the cards I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. Anyone else here tonight to speak to this item? Yes, ma'am, please. You come to the podium and state your name, please. Come to the podium and state your name and address, please.
You know, we've met so many times before. My name is Susan Andrea, and I'm formerly a native of Morganton, North Carolina, and now I live in Newton, North Carolina, not by choice, but because we were forced to move off of our land due to Todd Bennett and company, and how Mr. Branch is connected in any way with Todd Bennett, I don't know, but we're tired of hearing about that. We're tired of hearing about all of this. I first want to start out by saying we have the greatest respect for one member on this committee, and that is Mr. Maynard Taylor. Mr. Maynard Taylor has shown his dedication to the needs of the citizens of this community. We have been in here so many times. There have been opportunity after opportunity. Questions, silence. Concerns, silence. Really? You know, we approached you almost 8 years ago over this situation. Our right to live in peace on our property. And there is a noise ordinance. It's right here. However, the deputy director has a hands-off policy to law enforcement. This right here is hands-off, and it is not to be enforced by law enforcement. Is that not correct, Mr. Simpson? Are there not holes all in all of this fiasco?
Beg your pardon?
Are there not holes, legal holes, in a lot of this fiasco that's been going on for 7 years?
Not that I'm aware of.
Not that you're aware of. Well, I guess, you know, in as much as Maynard Taylor is the only one who is involved in apparently listening and entertaining we approached you as cordially and kindly as we could possibly do. We tried. The other night, you had Todd Bennett in here with his lobbyist, Scott Carpenter, and had basically an audience with the popes. Now, you know, that's just wrong. What Todd Bennett wants are his wants. And apparently whatever Todd Bennett wants, he's learned, I guess, as a child, he's going to get it. It doesn't matter whose life he ruins. He has ruined our lives. He's ruined Shirley Brown's lives, and he has ruined the area in which he brought his motocross track. And you are letting a precedent stay and continue to stay in this county that at some point in time is going to come back to haunt you. Mr. Mulvey, I adore your wife, and I'm sure you probably discuss events in your lives from day to day. She probably may have shared with you that there were people so interested in seeing our home when it was for sale. However, they heard all the scuttle about which we have to declare, and we wouldn't not declare it. Those are not the type of people we are. We're straight up and we're honest. And as it happens, the clients that your wife intended to bring and were interested in our home, which we think was lovely, it was very comfortable, and we were so happy there. They declined to go see it and pulled out of even going to view the house because of the Bennick reputation. So I did basically, I'm sorry, I sound angry. We have every right to be angry. There are so many good people in this county. Kay right here, Kay Drawn right here is one of the finest assets ever. But I just really want to know who is in charge here. I don't see anybody really taking the lead other than Mr. Maynard Taylor. And then Scott Carpenter, where's Scott?
I'm going to ask you to finish up,
You
Miss
pick
Andrews.
and choose who you want to, you know.
Presenting what was applied for.
Yes, well, and it, you know, continues to tweak and tweak and tweak. That's all I have to say. And, you know, I'm that mean woman, as referred to at the pre-agenda meeting. I'm the one who caused all the problems. I was the troublemaker. Well, you know, you only become a troublemaker when you've lived for 5 to 6 years in peace, and then you have somebody running at times 10, 15, 25, 35 motocross bikes, professional grade bikes from hell, and you can't even, every sensory cell in your body is destroyed. So I want to tell you that I do respect you. I would like to respect you more by seeing with some more involvement, but you know, I don't live in this county anymore. And that was not my intention at my age, to not live in Burke County. We never had intentions to move. But things happen, and there are people who are not willing and who do have the authority to reach out and make a difference and help. You have the authority to have imposed an injunction yourself, and you know you do, but you wouldn't do it because you don't want somebody at church mad at you. I thank you for your time and extra time, but you know, I timed it, and Todd Bennick had 26 minutes of your undivided attention. So if I went over like the 8 minutes, I'm not going to make any apologies. That's a minute per year. Thank you, Kay. Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Thank you.
Anyone else speak to this matter? Seeing and hearing none, I'll close the public hearing at this time and entertain a motion on this item.
Mr. Chairman, may we ask Ms. Bennett one question?
Ms. Bennick, would you come back up and
Really 1.5, if I may. You had stated in your presentation that you wanted this rezoning for an employee to live on the property. And I guess my question is, the two questions is, will he pay rent? And what authority will he have over the property?
As far as authority, he wouldn't have any authority over the property. It's ours, and we would be using him there just to help out with what we need done because it is so many acres. As far as rent, I'm not sure. That's something you'd have to ask Todd. I can call him if you want me to. I don't know the answer to that. But I can get him on the phone. And I do want to say one thing about when they had said something about the 21 acres, why 21 acres instead of the one little spot? And that is because we were recommended from the county to do that so that we didn't have to spot zone. That, I know that much. So that's the answer to that.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
thank you, Ms. Bennick. Do I hear a motion on this item?
Well, Mr. Chairman, looks like nobody's going to make a motion. We need to make something and move this thing forward in one way or the other. So I was going to say something that I probably would be embarrassed to say, so I won't say that. I move to adopt ordinance number 2018-09 and related consistency statement. The consistency statement from the county says that the 2016-2030 strategic land use plan identifies this area as the Lake James Special Planning Area. The plan recommends both recreational and residential uses within the area. The proposed residential 2 R2 district would provide for expanded recreational and residential uses in this area. There are only 5 differences between the R1 and R2 zoning districts in the table of permitted and permissible uses. As for residential uses, the table would allow only one difference. The difference would be Class A, vinyl sided, shingle roof, double wide manufactured homes. The number of existing manufactured homes in this area are comparable to the number of single family homes. And lastly, it is not reasonable to think the trend for manufactured homes in this area would or should stop when there is a continued demand.
Okay, thank you, Johnny. Gentlemen, you've heard the motion. All those in favor, please signify by the uplifted hand. Those opposed? Madam Clerk, that's 3-2. This brings us to item 3 on the public hearings tonight. Community Development Zoning Map Amendment ZMA 2018-06 and public hearing. This will be presented again by our Deputy County Manager, Scott Carpenter, and Planning Director. Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. This is ZMA 2018-06. Staff has received a rezoning application from Tracy Thompson Dale to rezone a portion of 2 adjoining parcels of land from its current zoning of residential 3 to the general business zoning district. The 2 parcels total 7.38 acres. However, the actual acreage to be rezoned is 3.37 acres. As far as the site goes, individually, the 2 parcels are 6.39 and 0.979 acres. The larger 6.4 acre parcel has an existing agricultural building on it, but it is otherwise vacant. The 0.98 acre parcel has an existing dwelling, garage, and accessory structure on it. The 911 address on the parcel is 1830 US 70 West, Morganton. So this is over near Bell Farm, if you all know, in Kathy Road, where 70 is running to Lake James. The parcel has approximately 662 feet of frontage along US 70, which is a minor arterial road. The parcel is served by public water only. Wastewater disposal is handled by a private on-site septic system. The surrounding area is a mixture of vacant land, residences, a church, and several businesses. Directly to the north is a 24.5 acre undeveloped wooded parcel, and adjacent to that parcel is a dog grooming business. Directly across US 70 are several more undeveloped wooded parcels and a manufactured home sales lot. Further south is an adult care facility. To the west is the remaining 3.5 acres of Mrs. Dale's property. Further west is an unnamed subdivision with 5 small residential lots and dwellings on them. And to the east are 4 more residential lots with dwellings in the area. You have an existing land use map that shows the general vicinity of office institutional type of uses, other commercial uses, as well as single family and modular different housing types. As far as conformity with the comprehensive plan goes, the current land use plan for Burke County is the 2016 to 2030 Blueprint Burke Strategic Land Use Plan. The plan classifies this area as a secondary growth area. This designation is given to areas lying just outside of the primary growth area and have many of the same attributes as the primary growth areas, such as access to infrastructure, utilities, and transportation corridors. The subject property is located a third of a mile from Cathy Road, which has direct access to Interstate 40. So the I-40 Cathy Road interchange is a designated industrial focus area due to the Burke Industrial Park site being located there and its proximity to Hickory and the Asheville area. As far as conformity with the Burke County zoning ordinance, the current zoning district for this parcel is residential R3. In this review of Section 920, the schedule of permitted and permissible uses by district, one can see that the R3 district does permit some commercial industrial uses. However, a commercial kennel use is not one of those uses. So by definition, the general business district provides a commercial zone along major highways that provide for a range of commercial services that are accessible to the general public and surrounding neighborhoods. Businesses in this district are intended to serve daily convenience and personal needs of the immediate area by way of direct access to a thoroughfare or street. The Planning Board met on August 23, 2018 to hear the rezoning request, and after hearing from staff and the applicant, the board voted 6-0 to recommend approval of the rezoning request. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, thank you, Scott. Gentlemen, you've heard this information. Any questions for Scott on this matter? Hearing none, I'll open the public hearing at this time. Do we have anyone here tonight to speak to this item? Seeing and hearing none, I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion on this matter.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt ordinance number 2018-14 and offer the attached consistency statement. This area lies within the secondary growth area. This designation is given to areas lying just outside of the primary growth area and have many of the same attributes as the primary growth area, such as access to infrastructure, utilities, and transportation corridors. Any new development of the parcel will be subject to the table of permitted and permissible uses by district. Rezoning the property to the general business district would provide a commercial zone along with an established transportation corridor, that being US 70. The general business zone would allow the establishment of businesses which would serve the daily convenience and personal needs of the immediate area.
Thank you, Johnny. Gentlemen, you've heard the motion. Those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. Madam Clerk, that's 5-0. Thank you, Scott. This brings us to item 8 on the agenda, informal public comments. Do we have anybody here tonight to make any public comments? Seeing and hearing none, I'll close public comments. We'll move on then to our consent agenda. I'll ask our county manager to review the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, you have 8 items on your consent agenda. First, Burke County Public Schools Mountain View School Road widening contract and change order. Number 2, BOC, resolution in support of Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Number 3, BOC, resolution in support of the preservation and economic development of the historic Henry River Mill Village. Item 4, clerk, reappointment to the Veterans Services Board. Item 5, TMPM, National Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Week. Item 6, AAB, Animal Advisory Board Report and Community Questions Approval. Item 7, Tax Department, Tax Collection Report for September 2018. And item 8, Tax Department Release Refund Report for September 2018. That concludes your consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Gentlemen, you've heard this consent agenda as read by our manager. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. I think that's all of us. Item.
You didn't do a motion.
Did I hear a motion for that?
Yes, you did.
Maynard, make that motion. and we'll still accept the ayes if that's okay with you, Madam Clerk. All right, thank you. Now, that brings us to item 10. We have no items for decision tonight. Item number 11, reports and comments. I'll start to my far right with Attorney Simpson.
I don't have any comments tonight, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir.
No comments.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, all of mine are in the package. There's one that didn't make it. They didn't get it here in time, and that was the Highway MTAC Committee, but you'll have them in next month's package.
Okay, thank you, Madam. Mr. Manager?
Yes, sir. Gentlemen, we have an updated picture of the jail site, construction site, and one other item after that. They can start it up the brick on the outside. There on the left-hand corner, you can see that. But they're making good progress.
Trick or treat!
Happy Halloween.
Madam Clerk, how do you get you to do that? I hear that. I hear that. Commissioner Carswell.
May I go last, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, you may. Mr. Mobley.
For that last comment, I think I'll stay quiet.
Okay.
No
Madam,
comment.
Dare I ask Madam Clerk, do you have any?
I have no comments this evening, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I have no comments either. Our reports are in the package. And so with that, Mr. Carswell, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For a point of personal privilege, I want to thank everyone for allowing the resolution for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I proudly introduced that in honor of my mother, who passed away in 2013 from breast cancer, and my sister-in-law, who died in 2015, Nancy Bennett, from breast cancer, and to my wife, who is still recovering from breast cancer. I thank you guys for wearing pink tonight in honor of that, and remind you that October, the full month of October, is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. As I typically do, I want to remind the people that are watching in tonight, I want to keep Burke County clean, and I think you want to keep Burke County clean. So if we can continue with trying to pick litter up anywhere that you can find some on the road, we would appreciate that. And again, there are programs out there to combat littering. I had the opportunity to spend the last 2 or 3 days in New Hanover County for the North Carolina County Commissioners Association annual, their first meeting under the new president. I'd like to commend Pender and Brunswick and New Hanover County for the great work they're doing to try to clean up after a hurricane. It was just unreal, the work that they've done down there. You can still drive through Wilmington, and there is debris, furniture, people's lives are laying out on the sides of the roads, and it just breaks your heart to drive through Wilmington and see bed linens and mattresses and furniture laying on the side of the road that people owned and lost all of that. So I commend those 3 counties for the great work that they've done. I want us to remember a former Commissioner, David Campbell, who passed away. And David worked down at the Board of Elections for 20 years also. And David was a good man. I like David Campbell. He did a lot for me. He taught me a lot and sat down with me and talked to me about what it takes to be a commissioner. And he had some great words of wisdom. He was a good man. I want us always to remember that as commissioners on the local level, we're the front door of democracy. And people sometimes try to close that door in our faces. And I just want you to stay strong, stay firm in your beliefs of what you do. You chose to run for office and be elected and sit up here and have to listen to some of the things that we have to listen to. But let's always remember that that we do hold the key to that front door of democracy. And that's what it's all about, the United States of America, Burke County, where we live at. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Carswell. And before I recognize the clerk for vacancy announcement, I see our emergency management director in our audience still tonight. And I extend appreciation for the work that you guys did during the storm of leaving the county, and along with our other department heads who I know had efforts during those times as well. So thank you to all, Mr. Manager, and please extend to all of our staff our appreciation for the work that they do during times of bad weather and other things that create crisis for our county as well as other counties across the state. We appreciate your response. Now, Madam Clerk, if you'll cover the vacancy announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. We have the following opportunities for citizens to be engaged with Burke County: the Hickory Regional Planning Commission, the Adult Care and Nursing Home Community Advisory Committee, Council on Aging, Aging Regional, Juvenile Crime Prevention Council, the City of Morganton Planning Board and the City of Morganton Board of Adjustment and Planning Board for the ETJ, the Voluntary Agriculture Board, the Burke County Board of Adjustment and Planning Board, the Burke County Parks and Recreation Commission, the Western Piedmont Regional Transit Authority Transportation Advisory Board, Partners Behavioral Health Management, the Animal Advisory Board, the Board of Health, the Region E Development Corporation, and the Burke Senior Center Advisory Council.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And as always, there are many opportunities in our county for service, volunteer service, many boards and committees. And I would encourage you, if you're listening tonight, to please consider your availability and consider serving on some of these boards and committees. This brings us to item 13, closed session. We do not have a need for a closed session tonight. So with that, we'll come to item 14, adjournment. And I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Maynard. Those in favor say aye. I believe that's all of us, Madam Clerk.